Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vendo podcast. I'm joined today with my colleague, Yoji Cole. He is our business development manager, and I'm Nick Martinez, our senior marketing strategist. Super excited again to have you all here today. So the topic for today that we're going to be discussing is channel control. So here at Vendo, we've developed over the years a 6-step channel control strategy that is meant to maximize buy box, maximize sales, and protect your brand image on Amazon. And I know Yoji, you do a lot of interacting with brands. You know, you're out in the field, going to conferences, going to trade shows, doing all that type of stuff. And I know you get a lot of feedback at those events and those conversations about channel control issues and maybe some misconceptions or concerns about it. If you could just tell everyone a little bit about that, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. So, you talk to a lot of different types of brands, and you're always talking to brands about, well, how can you maximize sales? Well, making sure that your sales are going through, your vendor central, your seller central, that your authorized seller is the way to make sure that one of the ways to make sure that you're maximizing sales. People still don't realize that they can eliminate unauthorized sellers. And yeah, sure, it does. It's kind of counterintuitive, if you will, to Amazon's way of doing business, because Amazon allows anybody to sell. And I always get the pushback from brands that I'm talking to who aren't aware that you can eliminate unauthorized sellers. They say, well, what if the price is this, okay? What if, we can't tell them to get off our listings because of price? We've already talked to Amazon about that, and Amazon says, hey, nothing you can do about that. So yeah, so that's when I go down and explain to them and go through our strategy that we have that's been very successful. Brands that I talk to are having all kind of problems because of their lack of channel control. One is that they are trying to get into retail. And when those retail buyers open up their Amazon listings, they see that, well, wait a second, you have, 20, 30 sellers on here, 15 sellers on here. They're all at different prices. Or they even say, hey, you've got all those sellers on there. They are at the same price, but what happens if 2 of them decide to dip below? And now I have a price that is, at your map or at true retail, but now on Amazon, people are, buying it for cheaper. Now they're using my retail establishment as a showroom for purchasing on Amazon.
Yeah.
So that's what brands are dealing with on a regular basis. And it's the lack of knowledge of how to eliminate those unauthorized third-party sellers that has them stuck, if you will.
Yeah, no, excellent. Very, very, very telling. And, just as a little teaser here, what we're going to go over today is going to basically lay out some of the steps to essentially cut down about, at least 90% of the resellers on Amazon, if not 100%. If you're a brand that's killing it out there, more likely than not, you're going to have new resellers pop up here and there. And that's just kind of a reality of the business. But what we're going to go over is really going to be meant to get rid of about 90% of that, as well as control it on an ongoing basis. So if you do have any new resellers jump up on your product pages, you can take action swiftly and minimize the negative effect of that. So yeah, I think we can jump right into the steps here. The first step that I'm going to talk about is really about prevention and reinforcement. So this is more about, maybe you're new on Amazon, or maybe you've been on Amazon and you want to prevent future resellers from jumping on your product pages, right? There's a lot of different things you can do to do that. One of the things you can do on the manufacturing end or the production end is to make your product materially different on Amazon, so that no other reseller can get that exact same version of that product, because you have a different product version of the product for Amazon than you have for your other channels.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah,
and Nick, that's very important. That whole material difference concept.
yeah.
It's something that a lot of brands aren't aware of, and when they do talk about it, they say, "Well, wait a second. If they've bought it directly from us or from an authorized retailer or distributor, how is it materially different?" So that's going to be, good advice for us to be able to provide.
100%. And so if you can plan ahead and do that, at the production manufacturing stage, by all means. And it can be things such as product packaging differences, slight modifications, just something that shows that this product is different. A different UPC, of course, for Amazon would be the most ideal,
Yeah.
because you're only allowed to have one product page per UPC. But yeah, just materially different. Um, Aside from that, some things you can do on the prevention side is with your legal documentation. So if you don't have a reseller agreement in place right now, highly recommend that. So a reseller agreement basically stipulates where your customers can resell your products. It can be kind of a overarching rule that says no online reselling. Or it can be a little bit more specific, like no online reselling on Amazon.com or
Right.
Walmart.com. You can get specific with it. And of course, with your direct consumer customers, that's going to be a lot easier to enforce. I know when it comes to enforcing that through distributors such as UNFI, KeHE, whoever your distributor may be, it gets a little bit more tricky because, of course, they're in the business to sell your product. And a reseller agreement that prevents online reselling is an obstacle to them for getting your product out there.
Nick, something that just comes to mind is I've talked to brands, over the years, hundreds of
Yeah.
thousands of brands, but there was one brand that really sticks out. It was a nail, a nail brand, major one, and what they had to do, they had like, gosh, they said 180 plus different distributors out there that they went to and told them, this is a new agreement. You are going to have to sign this agreement or you're not receiving our product. And I'm seeing more brands take that
Hmm.
because they've been in these relationships for several years, if not decades now. And they're realizing Amazon is such an important channel for us. We have to tell our distributors and our retailers that they can't no longer, they no longer can sell on Amazon or Walmart.
Yeah.
To your point. So, well, what do you do? So, what this nail brand did is they went back to all 180 plus of their distributors and told them, hey, if you're not willing to sign this agreement, then we're no longer going to do business with you. And some of them, a small percentage of their retailers and distributors dropped off, but a vast majority said, the value that I'm getting from selling your brand in retail supersedes what I am doing on Amazon. So they were able to, use that, what you're talking about here, putting a clause in the agreement stating that they're not going to be selling on that any third-party sites other than their own websites. So yeah, definitely
Yeah.
do that.
No, that's a great, real life example of this in play. So, yeah, I mean, if you can get those agreements in place, definitely do that. Some distributors are harder than others, but if you push, you can most likely get it done. And, resale agreements are more difficult than MAP policy agreements. Distributors are more open to that. Some of the distributors even have MAP policy enforcement programs. Like I know we work a lot with UNFI on this, and they charge a small fee for the year, but they give you an email address. Anytime you see someone going below MAP pricing, you send them a screenshot of that,
Yeah.
and one warning, and then the second time around that customer's cut off for violating that MAP policy. So
I think a lot of brands don't realize that UNFI will work with you on that. I'm still
yeah.
seeing that some brands don't even realize that. When I mention that to them, they're surprised. So That's
Yeah,
good.
no, totally. Yeah, it's map@unify.com, and it's an enforcement program. I think they charge like 1,000 something dollars a year for that, but
Hmm.
the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands that you end up, saving because of it
Yeah.
is pays for it for sure. Um, yeah, and so, with those two kind of documents, the reseller agreement or the MAP policy, really make sure that as many of your distributors, your retailers, your customers, everybody possible has that, right? And if you can
Hmm.
get them to sign it, get them to sign it too. That way down the road, there's never, any confusion with, oh, I didn't know, and on top of that, add it to your website. Add your full resale agreement to your website. It can be, kind of like you have your privacy policy or your warranty policy. And what's really great about having it on your website is when we talk about brand registry later on in the podcast, and different ways to leverage that program, being able to reference some of these policies. If it's your warranty policy, that's going to be good. Or later on, we're going to talk about actually enforcing directly with the customers. Being able to reference the reseller policy on your website is going to be valuable during that.
Yeah.
Brand registry doesn't recognize distribution agreements, but they will recognize warranty policies some of the time. So that's one example where you could link it.
Yeah, and very important to protect yourself off of Amazon. We're talking, like you said, we're going to be talking about how to protect yourself on Amazon, but making sure all your ducks are in a row off Amazon is extremely important, and oftentimes something that you know other Amazon management firms might not help you out with. So that's something that's key.
Yeah, 100%. And I think our channel control team, we really try to go above and beyond to make these advisements. Really everything we've talked about so far is off the Amazon marketplace.
Mhm.
It's just about protecting your brand in general, from people wanting to take a bite out of your pie. So yeah, I think that kind of covers a lot of the reinforcement and prevention tactics. The second thing I would say, the second step is to have some type of automatic software or tool in place, so that you are getting automatic alerts anytime someone hops on your product page, so that you can take action right away. So there's different services out there that will notify you. There's even some services out there that will automatically send cease and desist letters to those resellers right away when they jump on your product page. So, you might not even have to take action manually, and they're already getting that. So that,
And
yeah.
just one question. I wanted to confirm. So when we're doing this type of work for brands, we actually take a snapshot, if you will, of the third-party seller that's on there, right, to show the brand.
Yeah, exactly. We use a software where you can actually where it will automatically every day take a screenshot for you and load it into your database. So you don't even have to do it. It's just the second someone goes below map or jumps on your product page, it takes a screenshot.
What's important about that is, hey, that works at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 3
3 a.m. on a Saturday morning when you're,
yeah,
and
yeah.
when Miss and Mr. Brand owner are asleep, that type of software is protecting them. So
Exactly, it's protecting them, and then when whoever's managing your Amazon business gets in the next day, they see that snapshot, they can take action within 24 hours, and again, really minimize that loss of sales. Because let's say you're doing $10,000 a day on a product, someone jumps on, they go below map, you don't catch it till day 2 or day 3. Well, now you've lost $20,000-$30,000 in sales. I mean, that's a big chunk of change there. So, having some type of automation for these alerts and then of course the management of that to take action is vital.
for sure.
So that covers the first two steps. The third step is more about the low-hanging fruit of what you can do to merge and delete duplicate listings. So maybe you don't necessarily have a problem with resellers being on your product page, but you have a problem with them creating duplicate product pages of the same product and kind of diverting that traffic from the authorized page to this unauthorized duplicate page. And we see this a lot of the time. I mean, we've worked with brands where there's 10 different copycat pages, and Amazon terms of service says that for every UPC there should only be one product page, one ASIN per UPC. They're very strict about that. So that's low hanging fruit, because all you have to do is show, hey, two products with the same UPC have two different ASINs. We have brand registry maybe, or whatever the reason may be, but delete this other one because there's not supposed to be two. And that's a really good way to just go ahead and get rid of those duplicates. If they won't just delete the duplicate, they'll probably they'll merge it. Merging it can be better too, because it kind of consolidates everything into one product page. Yes, it's going to bring over all of the resellers from those other product pages to your product page, which is going to drive your buy box down. But if your goal is to protect the brand image on Amazon, it's still better to have one product page with multiple resellers than multiple product pages with multiple resellers. It's just too confusing to the consumer. They're like, which one's the actual product, right?
Right. Getting rid of the clutter is one of the main things that brands need to do on Amazon. Make it easier for the consumer to make the right decision. And how important is understanding Amazon's terms of service, Nick? How important? Because hey, you don't know that, then you don't know something extremely important that you just explained, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's very, very important to understand their terms of service and all their policies. And like even what I just said about you can only have one ASIN, one product page per UPC. That's not necessarily a policy that you would find under the brand registry resource page or anything. But it is a policy, and it can be used for channel control. So you should use it. But yeah, with any of these things, when you're communicating with Amazon, if you can link it back to their policies, it's just like if you're going into court and you're trying to cite a law or a previous case as precedent. You got to do the same thing on Amazon. You can link their resource and be like, hey, right here on link from Amazon in quotes, you guys say this. I'm showing you that it is that. So stand by what you say and take action. And that's a really strong case to make. And I think you'll see success fairly quickly with that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so definitely merging merging or deleting duplicate listings. That's a good way to go. And you can do the same thing for unauthorized listings, such as, maybe someone's selling a 2-pack or a 3-pack of your product, but your brand doesn't sell 2-packs or 3-packs. Well, per Amazon's, terms of service, they actually shouldn't be selling a 2-pack if the manufacturer did not intend for there to be a 2-pack sold. That not as new anyway. If someone
That's getting back to that material difference argument too.
Yeah, exactly. Material difference in Amazon's eyes says that the product can only be deemed new if it is as intended by the manufacturer. So the second somebody modifies that product, you see people combining two products, like, two different brands together to create a bundle.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually, that actually makes that product considered used under Amazon's policies. So you can do this to get rid of bundles and different pack sizes that you don't approve of. And there's, different tactics that fall underneath that too, but just another thing to be mindful of. Great. So that covers step 3, merging and deleting listings, unauthorized listings. Now we're going to get into step 4 and step 5, and this kind of gets into the nitty gritty, the more, where it gets a little bit more time consuming, a little bit more aggressive, and where you really start taking out a lot of these unauthorized resellers.
And just to, if I, could make the comment. Again, out there talking to brands all the time. And one of the things that they're always saying is, well, who is seller ABC? When I'm up, I can't find the business name. I don't know who the business owner is. Or I can find the true business name and address, but nobody ever responds. So how do I make that happen? So it's good that you're going to cover this.
Yeah, no, exactly, Yoji. So, really what step four is, so step four, we call it the diplomatic approach. It's also kind of the enforcement communications approach. So, basically what you want to do first is you want to uncover the real identities of all these resellers. And we've got some tricks up our sleeves for how we do that. One of them is, there's services out there, softwares and kind of the DEAs of online enforcement, if you will, and they'll put in the work to do the research and figure out who is the primary contact, the decision maker, what's his or her phone number, his or her email, home address, office address. They'll really unmask a lot of these sellers for you and give you some really good information to work with. Because if you're just relying on Amazon's buyer seller messaging system to reach out to these resellers, you're going to get practically nowhere. I mean, you'll get ignored all day. There's only so much you can say because it's going through Amazon's system. So really the main point here is that you've got to get real quality contact information. And once you have that contact information, you can be diplomatic. You can call up the guy and be like, hey, I'm so-and-so CEO of this brand. I really appreciate you supporting the brand and wanting to resell it, but we've got these policies in place to not have resellers on Amazon, and this is why. Go into the reasons. Just try to relate to them a little bit, and I think you'll be surprised.
Well, yeah, definitely. I think you'll be surprised, and lean in on their overall business plan, which, if you look at what these resellers are selling, they're selling thousands of different products on Amazon if they are a professional Amazon seller, right? So if you're selling thousands of products, getting off of your one listing and not jeopardizing the rest of their business is very important to them, number one. Number two, if it's a retailer of yours, letting them know, hey, and truthfully, this is pre-COVID. Now it's maybe a little different, but letting them know you're probably selling more through your retail establishment than you're selling on Amazon, right? Typically, that's true. They are. They're selling way more through through their retail establishment than they are, on Amazon. So understanding that when I, as the brand, start cleaning up my brand, and you no longer have to compete with Amazon pricing, and everything is consistent across the board, that raises, your sales in your retail establishment, because they're no longer, again, using your retail establishment as a showroom to purchase on Amazon. The price is the same, or maybe it's a little bit more.
Yeah, no, that's a brilliant point, and that does come up, pretty often. So definitely something to be mindful of when you're going into those conversations with these resellers. And in these conversations too, you can find out about supply chain links as well. So if you're talking to so and so and you're like, hey, where did you get my product? And they tell you they got it from someone that you've never heard of. Well, how is that person getting it? And then you kind of start following the supply chain, and then you come to find out that some distributor is reselling against your agreements, or something shady is going on. Maybe Amazon's even liquidating some inventory that they found. There's all kinds of things that can come up through this, and it could end up helping your whole business. Other channels, not just Amazon.
This is when the sleuthing gets exciting. You're like, finding all kind of new stuff out. I didn't realize that all these distributors were working against me behind my back. So brands that I talk to, they get excited when they start getting that information back, either getting it from us because they're doing that work, or they've been able to do it themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it, the type of detective work that we do here. We really try to get to the bottom of it, because it all helps. Every little bit helps with Amazon and your business as a whole. So you'll get a lot of value out of uncovering these sellers. But let's say you're not able to get that person on the phone. You've got a good piece of information, email, phone number, but you're not able to get them on the phone. Well, you've got an email, right? So what we've developed is a 4-step enforcement email strategy very, the first email starts off pretty diplomatic, and over the course of a couple weeks, it increases in aggressiveness and intensity. And that's purposely done to really, show that these resellers that, hey, we mean business,
Hmm.
and in that letter, you're citing what Amazon policy they may be violating, and or what company policy they may be violating. If it's a resell agreement, if it's a MAP policy agreement, you want to cite that. You want to link back to your agreements or attach those agreements to that email. If it's an Amazon policy violation, you want to cite that link and quote that specific policy. So that way, when these people are opening these emails, it's just not an empty threat, right?
Hmm.
It's like, oh gosh, they actually have something on me. I'm actually out of line right now. And if I don't, shapen up, well, I might be in for some trouble, right?
Hmm.
And so, we've worked up to this. We've tried being diplomatic, and now we kind of just have to say, hey, enough is enough. We've given you enough chances. This is what you're violating, and we don't appreciate it. And look, you're gonna get some people that ignore it still, right? Anybody that's making enough profit out of your brand is gonna try to stay up as long as they can. But I'll tell you, by the time you get to this step number 4, that we've just discussed, you're gonna have eliminated about 70% of your resellers. 70%. The remaining 30% are those stubborn ones, and for those stubborn ones, we've got to turn to brand registry.
Yeah, exactly. And those are the ones that by stubborn, because this is another thing people ask me, well, what if the seller, ABC leaves and comes back as XYZ, which is what they
Yeah,
do all the time as well. So those are the ones,
yeah,
when we unmask and we see, you came back, we caught you again. And at
yeah.
that point, that's when we turn to brand registry.
Yeah, and then that's what I was saying earlier at the beginning is, look, through this strategy, you're going to be able to get rid of, I think, at least 90% of resellers. But, the 10% is always going to be these people that come and go and come up under new names and, what have you. So they're just people that buy it at a store on a big sale and want to make a quick buck. You're going to have these guys, but yeah, by this point, you're going to get around 70% of them off. And something that I didn't mention that you could do before you turn to brand registry is certified mail. You
Mm,
can send cease and desist via certified mail. If the emails aren't working, the phone calls aren't working, maybe your information isn't as good as you thought it was. Maybe they're just ignoring your calls. Well, a nice certified letter, FedEx certified, legal kind of document right to their doorstep, that could pack a punch that the calls or the emails didn't.
yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah. I mean, hey, whenever we want to know that somebody received something, what do? We send it certified mail, right?
Yeah, exactly. And again, going back to unmasking these sellers, there's softwares that do this, but there's also little tricks and tips to do this. There's some stuff you can do with test buys. There's a link trick that has to do with Amazon Mexico. I won't go,
Hey,
can't
hey,
give
hey,
can't give
hey.
away all the secret sauce here, but there's some fun stuff out there too, that Yoji and I would be happy to chat in more detail about with our listeners, on a more personal level. Um, but yeah, so going into step 5, this is where we start looking at brand registry, and I know a lot of people have varying viewpoints on how brand registry should be used, or how the Project Zero program within brand registry should be used, and there is kind of a gray area because Amazon makes it very clear that they are not going to step in and get involved with enforcing distribution agreements. So if you go to Amazon and you're just saying, hey, this guy's violating my distribution agreement, can you take him down? They might not, they probably won't even reply to you. And if they will, they'll say, we don't do that. So you have to get creative. You have to be able to put forth a legitimate argument that references Amazon's policies. And we've talked about a lot of these things already. One of the big things is the material different angle. And if you can show to Amazon that the product is being sold as new, but it is used because it's materially different and not as intended by the manufacturer, then that is usually a pretty sure argument to get that that reseller, that offer removed. If you can show again that your product has different packaging or a different UPC or anything like that, that will be an argument that the brand registry program will look into. For a while, they were looking at warranties, and so you could say, you know, this reseller doesn't have a warranty. They can't honor the warranty like us, the manufacturer and brand owner, can. But that doesn't really work so much anymore. Amazon's brand registry team has kind of changed their positioning, but I still think it's worth a try.
You know, but you bring up a good point there. You know, Amazon is constantly evolving, and it's a moving target, you know, if you will, because what works this week may not work as well next week. And I talk to brands again all the time, and they're always saying, yeah, you know, we tried brand registry. We didn't get the results we needed. The sellers are still there, you know, or Amazon just sent us back things that didn't make any sense, and they were ignoring us. And that's where, you know, having a team that is doing this for a number of different brands on thousands of different ASINs, that knowledge of how to talk to Amazon, the cadence with which to talk to Amazon, the proper time. Getting back to your to your analogy about being in court, you know, I use this one all the time. You may be fully prepared to enter into family court, but if you're in traffic court, it's not doing you any good. Well, you know, you really have to know how not only how to make the case to Amazon, but, you know, proper time, the proper way. That's where that knowledge is tough for brands, because they're working on their brand. They're not working on thousands of ASINs like, you know, companies like we are, you know.
Totally. And there really is a laundry list of arguments that you could make through brand registry to prove your point. And the difficult part is figuring out which one of those arguments is going to work. And then also putting in the number of interactions with brand registry, submitting a high enough number of complaints to actually test and validate those arguments. So if you're just trying one argument a week, one time a week, you know, you're probably not going to get anywhere. You've got to be submitting complaints daily. And you know, the reason for that is on the other end of those complaints, who is it? It's a real person, right? They're most likely based out of India or Costa Rica, maybe the US, and they've got a quota to meet, right? And so they might be cranking through those complaints and just replying back with templated responses, not really reading into it. But if you submit to 100 and you get 1 out of 100 to approve the complaint, well, there you go. That's what you needed to be successful. And so it can often be a numbers game. But it also has to do with quality, not just quantity.
Well, you know, let's relate it to sales, and I'm sure that, you know, brand owners and you know, C-suite executives who run brands can relate to this. If you have a salesperson that's making 1 call a day, or you have a salesperson making 1,000 calls a day, who's going to be more successful?
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. So
perfect. Yeah, you've got to, you know, we always joke over here at Vendo that, you know, we work 25/7, right?
Exactly.
But it's not really a joke. I mean, you've got to have these systems in place, and you've got to have them, you know, once you get all these steps in place, you can automate it after time. And you really don't have to touch it too much. That's the beauty. But it takes a long time to build up that system, to figure out what's working, what's not working. And it does require regular maintenance and optimization.
You know, and getting back to the analogy that I just used of that salesperson, right? Because then I hear people's thoughts out there. They're like, well, if that 1 call a day is to the right person with $1 billion company, well then, hey, I'm golden. I've sold to this $1 billion. Well, none of us have Bezos's number, and even he, because we do talk to the senior leaders of Amazon, and time and again, it's, well, this is just the way it works. So the cadence, you know, getting back to your point of knowing how to, send in the cadence of, remove requests, that truly is, at the end of the day, it's the tried and true that you know.
Yeah, definitely. And so, by the time you've gotten to this point and you've done the brand registry complaints, our kind of success rate has been about 90%. So,
Mhm.
and that can be a 1 month process, that can be a 2 to 3 month process. It can be even longer. And, and again, it's going to always be ongoing. So you're going to have to start the process all over again for certain resellers, or at least go back to like step 3 or step 4. Um,
Well,
yeah,
and I would just like to say, so many brands that we have truly helped and saved at Vendo doing this. One that really comes to mind is a brand that had one ASIN that was selling about 35,000 a month, and they had absolutely no control over it whatsoever. There were 35 plus sellers on it. They wanted to completely delete that listing from Amazon. And when they came to us, they were just said, we just want to get it off Amazon and we're just going to sell it, on our own, D2C. And what, we said to them is, well, wait a second, the thing is making 35,000. Let's control it. The rest
yeah,
of the catalog, by the way, was making, I think, 30,000, if I remember correctly. So they had one ASIN that they had no control of, doing 35K a month. The rest of their catalog was doing about 30. Within 30, 40 days, we eliminated all of those sellers off of that ASIN. We're able to get control of it, doubled their sales immediately. But in the meantime, we were eliminating third-party sellers, the little that they had on the others. And now, after they've been with us since October, this brand is selling north of 500,000 a month. So you're
wow.
able to just, put the pedal to the metal once you get control of the sales channel.
Yeah, that's a prime example. And another kind of case study that just came to mind is about how it affects buyer relationships. And we had a supplements brand a couple years ago that was in a meeting with buyers at Walmart, brick and mortar, to renew kind of their catalog for the next season. And what did the buyer do in that meeting? Well, she brought up the product on Amazon right away, and and she was so impressed, so impressed to see how cleaned up the channel had gotten since she had last looked at it, that they decided right then and there, we're bringing you guys on for the next season. And so
Mhm.
that's a great example of how how your channel is controlled on Amazon can directly affect how your ability to grow and expand in retail or other channels. And to add on to that, the CEO of the company, the supplement company, was so impressed by that effect on Walmart and other brick and mortar retailers that he decided to cut off all distribution completely. He
Wow.
was done. He said, you know what? I don't even want to have to deal with this really anymore.
Wow.
So let's just cut off distribution. We can make it back in the other places. So
Yeah,
um,
and something, because that's a really key point. But growing in retail is something that brands are also wanting to do. So you have a retail customer. You've been sending them product, but they're struggling to compete with your pricing on Amazon.
mhm.
Right? So they're not bothering to buy more, and that's something else that brands are dealing with as well. We're already in retail, but they're either not buying more because of our lack of price control on Amazon or Walmart.com, or they're buying less, and they're slowly seeing their, the revenue that they have coming through retail decrease.
Mhm.
So, again, it's not only about
Yeah.
in there, but it's about growing it.
Yeah, no, it's all connected, and that's why the omni-channel approach that we take here at Vendo is so important, I think.
For sure.
Um, but yeah, I think that was a lot of information there. We went over the five of the 6 steps so far. The 6th step, to be honest, it's very rare that you're going to get to the 6th step, but the 6th step is filing a federal complaint against that third-party reseller. And that's when you've tried maybe doing cease and desist, you've gotten lawyers involved a little bit, and it's still not working out. Well, you can take it to the federal level there. But yeah, hopefully this was really interesting and really useful for everybody. In the future, we may create some other podcasts, or we definitely will, on the channel control topic, but we'll probably go into some more detail on each of the steps so that you guys can have some more action items from this. But yeah, hope everyone enjoyed it. If you want to reach out to Yoji or I, you can email us at hello@vendocommerce.com. You can go over to our Vendo website if you want to reach out to Yoji. His number is listed there. And yeah, follow us on social media. You know, we're vendo.commerce on Instagram, facebook.com/vendocommerce.com. We're also on Twitter, TikTok, Pinterest.
Yeah.
Really
Go
just
to
getting everywhere.
Vendo Commerce, and Nick, I've been sharing a lot, you know, with different clients of ours, our case studies on Vendo Commerce, as
Yeah.
well as our thought leadership. And you'll be able to find so much information in our experts corner on, you know, what's going on Amazon, what's going on Walmart.com. So reach out, ask us some questions. Love to talk to y'all.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good one, and see you next episode.